Vanessa, welcome. And thank you so much for being here. I wanted to introduce Vanessa, our next speaker. She's a travel tech professional who lives in Germany. She's from the US, like me. She's actually from LA. We're from the same place, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And she's like, so I follow her on Instagram and she creates amazing content on tips about moving abroad, the visa situations. And she also has a course. I want you to kind of go into like everything that you help people with. And so if you want to give yourself a little intro so people know more about you.
Yeah, thanks for that mini intro right there. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Menchaca-Wachtmeister. Very long name for a strong personality. I am originally from Los Angeles, California. I am a proud Mexican-American woman. In 2013, I moved abroad to China by myself after I graduated from Boston College, just to see what was going on over there. That was a decade ago, hard to believe. Since then, I've lived in London, Turkey, Munich, Berlin, brief stint around Southeast Asia backpacking, as many 22-year-olds do. And today I work full-time for Expedia, the travel company, in engineering. And then I own Wander Onwards LLC, which is a financial and relocation platform that's designed to help people live a life they love wherever they are in the world.
I love that, Vanessa. And tell us, like, so how did you initially, like, walk us through how you went from LA and what were you doing when you were in your home country, when you were in the US? Like, what was your job? And then how did you move abroad? And how did you figure that out in terms of work specifically too?
So I was studying to be a lawyer, even took the LSAT. I was doing speech and debate and like captain of the mock trial team since I was 12 years old. So I was in like a little suit competing to have the rest of my life decided for me. And then I was actually in Boston for the Boston bombings, and was a first responder for my university. So that just really like put my life in perspective. I'd always done everything that my parents or society has told me to do. What did I really want? Who was I outside of this like little lawyer shell that I had made myself up to be? So I grew up in an all Chinese neighborhood in Los Angeles, and I was like, what's going on in China? So the easiest way to get to China is to teach English. So I applied to a few programs, got into one in Beijing. That's where I wanted to go. And then packed 2 suitcases and showed up with no Chinese skills. I had never been there before. I didn't know anyone there. I just wanted to bet on myself and like have a completely different experience, stripped of everything I know and find comfort in.
Wow. So what was China like?
That was crazy. If there's any single young people here, or I mean, young is a relative term as well, go to China. You'll meet the most amazing, interesting people. You'll date a lot. You'll really test everything that you know about yourself, and be put outside of your comfort zone. And if you can survive in China for more than a year, you can survive anywhere.
So who is single in here? Drop me. Like, because I've also dropped me in the chat if you can. It doesn't matter your age either, but
yeah,
I heard that about China. Like I have expat friends when I was living in Barcelona that they were English teachers and they found, by the way, the English teaching jobs in China are amazing. They pay like pretty like equal to what you can make here as an average salary in the US. So people are living pretty good over there. But a lot of people have left and they've told me the same thing. Like the expat community here is so real. Like people are so fun. I've created like lots of genuine connection. So thank you for sharing that. And then what happened after that? So after China, where did you go?
So I only left China because I met a boy as it goes on. I met a boy at a beer pong tournament when I was supposed to be on a date with another boy. But he, for whatever reason, canceled on me when I had shown up. And I was like, there's a room full of hot guys and I'm by myself. Into the unknown we go. And I met this boy playing beer pong tournament, a German man. And 3 months later, after only knowing each other, he was like, I'm moving to London. Do you want to quit your job, leave your apartment, abandon all your friends, and join me? And I was like, sure, I'll pack my bags. And I moved to London with a man I barely knew who was older than I was. And my parents are like, are you crazy? Like, you just fought so hard. You're learning Chinese. You have a job. Like, why are you following this random European man around the world? And something in my heart just knew that that was the right decision for me, and that I wanted to do my master's in London because it was much more affordable than in the United States. So I bet on myself to survive, and lo and behold, we're married 6 years now. Yeah, I've been together for 9. It was the best decision that I ever made. And I literally decided overnight to move to London. No plan, no job, no real understanding of the visa process, other than I can have 6 months there to figure it out.
So what was it like? That is, by the way, I love that story. You went with, would you say that you're very like spontaneous, and you're like, yeah, why not? Like, I'm feeling the calling and I'm just going to do it. That's kind of how you operate.
I'm a very A-type person. So like, even my taxes, I start the year before and I'm like, where are my deductions? Like, what business expenses am I not considering? But when it comes to gut feelings, like, I can't explain it, but I know that this path is right for me. I go in all in, because every single time I've done that, I followed my heart. I moved to China, I moved to London, I started in tech. That's really where like I became the best version of myself.
Wow. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing. So London, what was that like? Because by the way, guys, if you guys need to know about like visas, visa hacks, like Vanessa is amazing with that. And that's also why I want her to come on, because you have such cool insights to this. And in terms of like the master's program, as Americans, it's very difficult for us to like find the work, to find the visa, because, you know, our country is like, we don't have these relationships like the EU has. So what did you figure out in London in terms of like your master's, and how did that, you know, how do you get a visa for a master's?
It's super easy, fortunately. So really it's just paperwork. And so in the master's process, there we go, in the European Union and in London, the steps are pretty seamless. So first you have to apply to the universities. And then once you get in, you get a formal letter that says, this student will be part of this university for these exact dates for an office. And you take that letter along with proof that you have an undergraduate degree, that you have enough income to support yourself, or not income, savings to support yourself while you're there, a criminal background check, and then some like general information about your age, where you're from, your personal history, etc. You then take that little stack and you go to a consulate in your country, your home country. And that really trips people up, because they might be abroad somewhere else, or even in the country that they're trying to stay in. And many countries don't allow you to apply from within. So you have to go somewhere else and do it at the consulate there. Once you apply, it takes about 6 weeks turnaround, and they actually hold your passport hostage. Nice. So give yourself about 3 months to make the application process. You'll get a visa, which is not the same as a residence permit. So once you have the visa in your passport book, you then enter the country, they stamp the visa, that makes it void. And then you take that void visa to the local immigration office, where they will make an application for your residence card. Now, that residence card is what allows you to stay in the country. You need it every time you come in and out. When you apply for Social Security, when you get your health care, do not lose that residence card. And in some cases, you have to register with the police, which makes me feel like a criminal.
I know that experience. I did the same thing. I actually was researching like what consulates are the quickest in the US, and I actually figured out how to go to the Houston one, so that I could get it done quick, because I wanted to go quicker than I wanted, or than most people. But yeah, the process, that's the only annoying part. But then it's like, once you're there, you know, you're given that visa, you're given the residency permit, you're basically like a citizen. I mean, you're not a citizen,
Yeah.
you're become a resident, so you can
Mhm.
enroll in the public healthcare system. This is
Mhm.
why I suggest, like, maybe you're not like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to school. But some master's programs aren't, it's not, some aren't the same intensity as like, hey, let's go to Stanford or USC. Sometimes they will offer like a couple hours a day classes. And so you do have free time in your schedule. What was your experience? Were you in a very intense master's program? I did one that I purposely made sure it wasn't intense.
Mm.
So tell me about your experience.
So there's really two options if you want to get a student visa. One is a full-time university qualification. And so that is going to be more formal, more time intensive. The Europeans tend to have like big lectures once or twice a week where you have like hundreds of kids with you, and then you break out into smaller discussion classes once a week called seminars. And then there's that secondary program that you just described where it's a little bit more chill. Like people are just here to like learn Chinese, learn Spanish. And so
Right.
like you drag yourself out of bed for your 9 a.m. Chinese class. And then you can just kind of hang out the rest of the time. And I did the hangout visa in China. And that was really lovely to learn Chinese and to meet other young people. And then in London, I did the intensive formal university qualification. And fortunately, I finished that qualification while the UK was still part of the European Union. So technically, I have an EU degree, which then opened me up to a 5-year blue card here in Germany, because there was a special allowance for people who had studied in the EU and who had gotten an EU qualification. So I barely sneaked by on that one.
Nice on that one. I know, because that's
Yeah.
different. My husband's British. We met in Barcelona, and he still has to, he's about to transfer his UK passport to be an EU one, so that things are easier, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
we're gonna drop later in the chat a free gift that Vanessa has, which is these master's programs that you can enroll in. And at least in my scenario, Vanessa, I found a program that was like $3,000 in Spain, and it literally gave me a 1-year visa. I was mind blown. I was like, how is this so cheap? And I mean, it's just, there's so many workarounds, guys. So I know some of you, Kristen, for example, earlier you asked, oh my gosh, I can't, like, it's hard to find work as an American over in Europe. And I totally get that. But another option could be, let me apply for this master's, let me get the visa. And then while I'm there, I can do my freelance, I can do because I know you have a business, you can start to grow that business. And really your visa situation, how you've handled that is with that master. So you don't have to be some scholar to do this either. There's no, unless it's like a really serious program like you did, Vanessa. So thank you for sharing that. And are there any other, like, tell us about your tech job at Expedia? I mean, I know it's an American company, right?
Yeah.
How
So
did
Expedia has 33 global offices. And so our European headquarters is in London. We are an American-based company, but I got hired in the London office as an operations manager for my first job. I beat out 250 applicants, they told me, which was insane because I was having imposter syndrome and I was like, why would they want me? But I actually used Wander Onwards, my travel blog, as proof that I am interested in the industry, that I know about what it takes to make a business viable, and that I am a go-getter. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm hungry to prove myself in a work environment. And so that's how I was able to beat out all of those applicants, which had arguably more like formal experience than me, because I got this job out of university. And then because of those international offices, when it was time for my husband to move back to Germany for his job, I started connecting internally with all the German teams. And I was like, does anyone have a job in Germany? Like, I need a job in Germany. Someone help me. And eventually I found a department whose sister office was in Munich, which is where we were going at the time. And so I applied to be part of that team, and I got it. Subsequently after, I didn't really like that job very much because it was client facing, and I don't know if anyone has client experience, but they will abuse you if they're paying you hundreds of thousands of euros and or millions of euros to do a specific job. So my anxiety can't take that sort of abuse. And I pivoted into the innovation team, which is basically means I build products from scratch. And once again, my Wander Onwards experience of running my own business made me more competitive for this job. And I got a 30K bump in my salary from negotiating. These are the skills that I have from my business and what I can bring to Expedia. I also got a secondary offer from Deutsche Bank to do basically the same job. And I just put the guns at one another's heads. And I'm like, give me all the money and a remote contract and 35 days of holiday. And they gave it to me.
Wow. Oh my God, that's so cool. And I had a problem with this whole, how do I justify that I'm different? So this is a very interesting and unique approach if people are interested in getting those competitive corporate jobs, how you can make yourself different. Congratulations. You're such a go-getter. I love it. And it's kind of similar to what I think Avi, who opened up the summit, we were chatting about this, about the resourcefulness. If you guys can see the resourcefulness that we chatted about, please put resource in the chat. I want to make sure you're grabbing this really essential point that when you want something, like, you're going to go after it. And that's what Vanessa clearly did. She didn't know if she was going to qualify for this job. And she just started connecting with the team and then hoped for the best. You know, when you create the connections, it will happen. So I love that.
Could I also add, when you're applying for jobs abroad, there's a labor market test that you'll face as an immigrant. And what that means is the company that is going to sponsor you needs to prove that they can't hire anyone local. And for that reason, they have to hire a foreigner because they're the only person that's right for the job. Now, this seems very daunting, especially if you're new to your career. But the way that you can get around that is by showcasing yourself as a US expert or an expert in a very niche area. So if you were in my position, I have entrepreneurial skills, I have engineering experience, and I know the American travel market. And so to understand that market, the American market specifically, you can't train for that here in Europe. And so that's often how people get away with the labor market test. And also when your companies are applying for that work visa, they're just going to change the job application to match what your CV says. So then they can show one-to-one to the government. This person has the skills we were looking for with the posting that we made. And that's why they satisfied the labor market test.
Interesting. Thank you for explaining that. Did you guys know that? Let us know if that's new information to you. Definitely is for me. I kind of am aware of it, but thanks for going into that much detail. So tell us about your Wander Onwards and your blog, and how you're helping people, as well as what kind of other content you'd like to share with us as people are taking this next step, moving abroad, either with their business or with their remote job. What would you like to share with us about, Wander Onwards and how you help people?
Yeah, so Wander Onwards is all about pursuing financial and location freedom. So we talk about everything from great destinations to holiday in Guatemala to how do you do a backdoor Roth IRA conversion as a American abroad, because we don't qualify for a Roth IRA technically based off of what the IRS deems as income and filing jointly versus separately. So I just did my backdoor Roth today. Not as scary as it sounds, but I talk a lot about expat personal finance. So you can actually go on YouTube, type in Wander Onwards, and I have a whole playlist about buying houses abroad. How do you file that with the IRS if you're buying over in Spain? I talk about retirement plans. How do you file a foreign employer-sponsored pension with the IRS in the United States? How do you buy stocks and shares while you're abroad? There's a whole bunch of tax requirements and issues that come up as Americans abroad. And I wanted to put it all in one place so people can consume that information a lot easier. We also talk about finding jobs, like career focused content is really my bread and butter, because I know how hard it is to find opportunities abroad, and also opportunities that pay you enough to maintain your life in the United States, whether that's to support someone, a family member, pay for your student loans. I was $110,000 in debt with student loans. And today I'm finally under $50,000. So I've only been paying that debt off for the last 4 years, and I've already gotten rid of like $80,000 in debt. So if you are looking to focus on financing career, Wander Onwards is where you should be.
Love it. And no, it's so true. You guys, I'm learning every day from all of your stuff, Vanessa. Like yesterday, you just posted a reel about, it was like the different visa options in UK, Ireland. I forget the other two that you mentioned. And then as well, you're providing like the not financial advice, but like, here's how educational content, to how you can, deal with some of these very pressing and real concerns that we have for our retirement and how all that works. So definitely give that a listen. And then let's see, what are your tips, I guess, for people who, want to move abroad in 12 months? Like, what is your top secret for them, secret or secrets couple? Of like, what should they start to do right now in order to make sure that in 1 year's time, they could be living in Germany like you, or maybe they want to go to Bali or Dubai and they want to actually make the permanent move? Like, what would you suggest that they do right now?
So you should start creating a virtual network for yourself in the cities that you're interested in specifically. So that means Meetup, LinkedIn, Facebook groups. It's going to be these networks that really give you a bird's eye view of what's going on the ground versus a 6-year-old outdated blog that some girl wrote in her spare time. That person's me. So these like virtual groups will have posting opportunities or conversations that'll really give you a better idea of what you're up against. I use that to source work, actually. So I was joining a bunch of meetup groups, not necessarily focused on career stuff, because then you get some like big grafters there trying to get attention or support or whatever it is they're trying to do. Instead, I focus on the hobbies that I have, like CrossFit, like women's groups. And then I go there with like a social agenda while still keeping an eye out for people who could potentially help me with my career. And so that'll give you a lot more support before you actually land there. And you get to meet those people in real life once you get there.
I totally agree. And that was kind of shared too, like, start creating these connections now. And if your goal is really, and your worry is the work part, like start asking questions and things will come to you. Vanessa, thank you so much. Can we open it up for Q&A from
let's do it.
Feel free to raise your hand, come on video, guys. Thank you guys for, asking all your questions. I'm seeing them in the chat. Feel free, if you are shy, go ahead and ask in the chat if you don't want to raise your hand, but you're more than welcome to raise your hand. Eric, how are you? Tell us where you're from and then where you want to move to, and then what your question is for Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa. I'm from LA, and I eventually, how you doing? And I eventually want to move to Portugal or Italy. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to be retiring soon. And I want to ask you a question about, and be honest, okay? Just be honest, okay? An honest question about healthcare.
Tell me.
Like, how do you feel about the healthcare abroad?
It's awesome. You will have to wait to access certain like specialty things, but I waited in America too, only to pay like a $200 copay to see my dermatologist.
Right.
So the way it works here is when you make an appointment, they have half the slots for people calling same day. So like you're sick with the flu, you call your doctor and I need a same day appointment. They can help you out there. And then the other half of the appointments are for people that make them a few days, a few weeks in advance. So it's super easy to understand how to get the appointments. Each country has its own healthcare strategy. So here in Germany, you are legally required to be insured. And then your company pays for half of your insurance, or you can self-fund for the insurance if you're an entrepreneur. And that costs about $300 to $700 a month, or euros a month, but it's unlimited. So all of the European Union, you can go break your arm and get support. You can go see a gynecologist in Portugal. It's not limited to someone in your network at a private or public hospital. They're legally obligated to help you in some way. And then when it comes to the cost of healthcare, you can crank up or crank down the support that you want. So you can have more basic coverage if you're in an insurance styled environment, which I believe Italy is, whereas Portugal is more open and social. So everybody's under the same plan. You have no cost other than the insurance contributions that you make from your income or your retirement agreement. And then you can just show up. So break your arm, have a great time.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing about tax, to try to like give you some more information about which one might be best for you in your retirement setup. If you go with the D7 retirement visa in Portugal, it's going to be at a lowered progressive tax rate, 20%, I want to say off the top of my head. But in Italy, in the north of Italy, if you like living in nature, they have a expat exemption tax regime. That's like the literal translation of it, where they lower your taxable income and like write off 70% of your monthly income because they want to encourage people to come and settle there. And that is eligible for folks outside of or without an Italian passport for, I think, like 5 years. And if you buy a house or have a kid, it extends to 10 to 15. So just some ideas about
that's good
what your money could buy you.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love the insights. You're like the visa queen, Vanessa.
Thank you. And tax or finance.
Yeah, tax and finance. I could call you Vanessa the visa queen. Okay, we could probably answer one other question. I've dropped the free gift that Vanessa has for you guys. So master's programs in Europe, are they all under $3,000 or?
Correct. All 40 of them.
That is so crazy.
And they're in English, so you don't have to learn another language.
40 master's programs that you could literally sign up for how much you pay for rent here in LA. And you can get a visa for a whole year or possibly 2 years, right? Are they 1 year programs or 2 year?
1 to 2 years.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. I'm happy I found this on my own, but that's what's beautiful about kind of like this community and having the support is we're here. We're here to help you guys. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for joining us. We really appreciate your insight, and I'm happy thank you for giving us that free gift. I think that's very useful, and definitely going to be sharing that with everybody too afterwards.